So we're looking at introductions first of all, because I think this is where you have the most potential to write an essay that's interesting, unusual, and going to be a bit unique as well. And this is also where you have the biggest chance of impressing the examiner as well. And this is because, you know, an introduction is going to be the very first thing that they read. And considering that I think about 16,000 people enter the John Locke competition each year, obviously this is not just for history, but it's for a range of different essays. Considering that that many people enter the competition every year, it's important to think about how your essay can be interesting and grips their attention from the get-go, because they're probably not going to be, unfortunately, spending very much time reading it. And that, unfortunately, is also the case for, exam essays that you end up writing. It's important to be very clear in what you're saying and catch their attention from the beginning and be clear about what your argument is from the very beginning. So remember, history is all about convincing people that your answer and your argument is right. You only have 2,000 words, so it's not going to be a complete rebuttal of every single thing that might be wrong within your answer. Because of course it would take maybe someone 12 volumes like Arthur Toynbee to come up with a complete example of how an answer for how civilizations collapsed. And also, Arthur Toynbee probably wouldn't have been able to answer whether his civilization was in danger of collapsing as well. So we need to set up the key components of your argument and explain how you've adopted these working definitions. So in this context, we've done this many, many times. We've looked very much in depth at the idea of civilizations and the different words of the question. Start with a quotation. So for example, the Stephen Hawking one that I mentioned would be a catchy introduction, because it's a little bit controversial. It happened 10 years ago, and we can almost try and see whether what he said has changed within the past decade. And the last point are the key historiographical questions within the question that need to be addressed. So for example, the idea of why do civilizations collapse? You could say it's very hard to come up with a positivist view of history. Positivist just means thinking that things can be explained scientifically, almost as if patterns can be automatically deduced from historical phenomena. But also in this question is going to be methodological. Why, first of all, have they asked two questions, one that is historical and one that is thinking about the future? So yeah, this is the methodological point, and we can think about how to connect those two things together. So, as I mentioned here, how do we study past ancient civilizations 4,000 years ago? But how do we also predict 40 years into the future? And this is the very last thing that you want your examiners to feel like when they're reading your essay. And this is also hopefully the very last thing that you'll feel like when you're writing your essay.